The addition of Xavier Betts, who signed his letter today with you, it gives you 5 wide receivers in this class. Do you like the direction that room is headed now?
Yeah, I mentioned in my press conference, there was a couple positions where we knew we had to rebuild when we got to Nebraska, and a lot of it had to do with just the numbers at the positions. We usually carry 10 or 11 scholarship wideouts. That's what almost every team in the country is going to carry, particularly in this day and age when you're playing with 3 wideouts most of the time. I think we came in with 4 guys on scholarship, and one of them was Stanley, who we only had for a year. So, we had to rebuild those things, and we've been working on it. I think we've gotten some good players in the past that are contributing or real close to getting there, and but that position was a real priority for us this year, and I feel great about who we got, and especially getting Xavier in the boat here at the end. There's some real talent in that group, and we're optimistic about them.
I want to ask you about a couple guys. We had 2 of your signees on earlier in the program, and we started with Henry Gray, the safety from Hollywood, Florida. Really enjoyed our chat with him. Tell us about that young guy who then looked like he turned into a pretty good recruiter for you.
I tell you what, we've home visited Henry late in the process last week, and he knew every kid that was committed to us, every kid we were recruiting. Someday he's going to have a future in that when football's all over for him. I think he's going to end up being a commentator for ESPN recruiting or working for one of these recruiting services, because he was just into it and did a lot of help getting some other kids interested in Nebraska and sealed as far as committing and signing in Nebraska. And on top of being a good player, he was already helping us by getting some other kids on board.
The other one, Coach, that we talked to was Turner Corcoran, the offensive lineman from Lawrence, Kansas, who I think made it to every home football game we had this fall. We had a terrific conversation with him. Wow, what a well-spoken young man.
Yeah, he's a grown-up, both physically and emotionally, and that's going to give him a real chance to come in and hit the ground running, and maybe even help us, sooner rather than later. So we're excited about a lot of guys. Turner is probably the cornerstone of this recruiting class, since he was ranked so highly and committed so early that we were able to kind of build around him.
Well, the highlight of the last 3 weeks for you had to be the little hunting trip you took up to South Dakota to go see Nash, wasn't it?
It was. I said it, I think before, it was probably my favorite home visit I've ever done. I grew up hunting with Dad, and probably bird hunting is my favorite of all the ways that you could do that. And obviously, he's got family and friends that run a pheasant hunting guiding service, and I didn't know if I was going to make it up there before signing day or not, and it worked out that we made it up there on a weekend, and we showed up on his farm and met a lot of his friends and family, and went out and had some fun getting after some roosters. So it was a great day. A couple of us felt right at home doing that. A couple others didn't. But when you're a kid from Nebraska or a kid from Iowa like Coach Shins is, that's kind of second nature.
Did you bag your limit?
Yeah, you know what? It was almost too easy, to be honest with you. I'm used to in Nebraska, when there's birds around, having to go out and walk half a day to hope you see some and maybe get your limit. And up there, we walked about a quarter-mile stretch of uncut milo, and about 15 roosters got out of it, and we got 12, and we were done. And it took probably 30 minutes, so which was perfect because that's about all the time we had. It was just a fun day.
Well, I know going into this thing, you really wanted to help the wide receiver room, and we talked about that. And the other one's the linebacker spot. Let's get into that group. Your thoughts about the young men that you've added to both the inside and the outside linebacker rooms.
Yeah, we're really happy with that too. I probably should mention, we've been laughing on all these trips we've been taking all around the country about how we're going to talk about these players. I've said this a couple times, but I can understand now why when Coach Osborne was always asked about players, the best you could get out of him was, he's got a chance to be a pretty good player, which is, I thought about just doing that the entire time, because I know the frenzy around Nebraska and the passion of our fan base. You know, the minute you talk about somebody, all of a sudden they're going to be the next Tommy Fraser or I Am Hip. So, you know, I want these kids to come in and be able to develop at their own pace and, you know, be their own player and not have all that pressure put on them. You know, that being said, these linebackers that we got, we feel like that was another area where we needed to add more talent, more depth. And we kind of started off with Blaze Gunnarsson, who's, you know, for a outside linebacker, pass rusher, setting edges and coming off the edge was exactly what we wanted. And he was just across the border in Iowa. Great big kid with great character, awesome family, and just exactly what the doctor ordered for us at that position. And kind of like Turner, we were able to build around him a little bit, staying at outside linebacker. Jamari Butler was a kid that we've had our eye on for a long time, was committed to another school for a while, but has a lot of ability to come off the edge and generate pass rush. I think he's just kind of scratching the surface of what he can become, has a bunch of the tangibles that you're looking for to have the talent to do that. And we also thought we could use maybe a little bit of immediate help at that position. Nico Cooper's a kid that I think could play a bunch of different spots for us because of his size and athletic ability, and I think he'll be able to generate pass rush for us too. And you know, he's already a little older than the high school kids, so you know, physically he's going to come in ready to go. Inside backer, you know, I'm going to butcher his name, but we call him Ativa or Va.
Va works.
Diablo Valley. Yeah, Va. He's just a great kid and a run and hit guy, and he's going to help us in a lot of ways that come in and really solidify the middle backer position. And then, you know, we just kind of pulled off a miracle. I think the coaching change at another school probably helped us in the transition there of at least getting our foot in the door with Keyshawn Green. And like a lot of kids, when we get them up to Lincoln and they see the fans, the unbelievable fans we have, and see the facilities and the passion for it around the state and the type of people that are here, we got a great chance. And we were able to get Keyshawn on campus, and he fell in love with it. And he's really a kind of a freak athlete that we think we're going to be able to utilize in a lot of ways.
You mentioned big kids. 7 of these 23 are at least 6'5". Is that on purpose? Are you looking for guys with more length now that you're moving into this in year 3?
Absolutely. I don't think our team was probably big enough when we got to Lincoln as a coaching staff, and we kind of knew we weren't as big as we wanted to be, but after 2 years in the league and seeing what we're playing against every Saturday, you know, it's not going to be very long. We keep recruiting these guys that we're going to go out on the field and not be smaller, particularly up front, than some of the teams we're playing. You know, there's one team in our league that averages, I think, 6'6", 330 on the offensive line, and really good players that aren't as big can manage that, but it just helps to be bigger. And definitely at the offensive and defensive line spot, and actually a couple other spots, even receiver, we felt like we needed to get more size and length. And you can't just get the size and length. You have to get good players with that size and length, and I think we were able to do that.
I wanted to ask you about Logan Smothers, the quarterback that's in this class. I think the story goes that he's in this playoff game and he gets like a collapsed lung and a broken rib or a cracked rib and then played the next week. Is that right? Did he do that? That's
right. Logan's a kid we identified early, has a great stroke, which is the first thing we look for. And then, you know, I think he ran a 10-700 meter as a junior, so he can really run too. He's a coach's kid, so he understands the game. And their team down there, Muscle Shoals, had a great chance to compete for our state championship, and actually were ahead in a playoff game that they lost at the end that he tried to play through broken ribs and collapsed lung, and played 3 quarters and then got hit again and just couldn't finish the game, but they were ahead at the time. And, you know, it says a lot about him and his desire to be great that he go out and play through that.
That's Brooke Behringer lore. There's Coach. That's kind of his stuff.
Yeah, see, you're doing exactly what I said.
I know.
You know, I don't want him to have to be Brooke Behringer. I just want him to be a really good version of Logan.